Before we begin today's deep dive, a brief legal disclaimer for our community. The following report is based on documented public records, federal court transcripts, and ongoing legal proceedings. The purpose of this video is to analyze the investigative timeline of the Romeca Meeks-Blackmon case and provide a forensic look at the public history of the individuals involved. This content is for educational and news reporting purposes only. It is not intended to castigate any individual, destroy a reputation, or incite harassment. Under the law, all individuals are presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. At Cold Trail Crime, we believe in the power of facts and the transparency of the judicial system. Now, let us look at the records. They say justice moves slowly, but in a Chicago courtroom on April 1st, the silence was finally broken by the sound of a forensic clock ticking toward a deadline that no one can outrun. While the rest of the world was looking for a prank, the judge was looking at a first-degree murder charge that has become a permanent, ironclad reality for Quadajah Holly Johnson. But the real story today is not just about who stayed behind bars. It's about the man who walked out of that courthouse a free man, unaware that the ground beneath his feet is shifting. This is Cold Trail Crime, and we are on a mission to hit 1,000 subscribers before the next gavel drops. If you believe that a mother's life is worth more than a legal loophole, hit that subscribe button right now. Today, the trail stops being cold and starts being clinical. The atmosphere at the Leeton Criminal Courthouse was suffocating as the defense tried once again to play the pregnancy card. They argued that a jail cell is no place for an expectant mother, but the prosecution countered with a chilling reminder. Romeca Meeks-Blackmon will never see her son grow up because of the actions taken that September morning. The judge's decision was a hammer blow to the defense bond denied. Quadajah Johnson remains in custody because the proof of her involvement is currently viewed by the state as evident and the presumption great. But while Holly sits in a cell, the world is looking at Carlos Smith. We are looking at the Stroger Files, the clinical, cold-blooded medical evidence that Carlos Smith cannot intimidate, cannot bribe, and cannot outrun. If you find this level of forensic research critical to the search for justice, please like this video for Cold Trail Crime so we can keep the pressure on the authorities to act. On March 26, a qualified protective order was officially signed, granting prosecutors full access to Romeca's medical records from Stroger Hospital. This is the silent witness from the grave. Why is this a nightmare for Carlos Smith? Because while he stood in that courthouse hallway on April 1st, defiantly denying every allegation to the cameras, the science is preparing to tell a different story. If those medical records show internal neck bruising or soft tissue trauma consistent with a manual chokehold, the bystander defense is officially dead. Witnesses at the scene did not just see a man in a struggle. They saw a man who appeared to be directing the flow of a fatal confrontation. They described a tactical restraint. A moment where Carlos Smith allegedly held Romeca in a headlock, immobilizing her so that the shooter could retrieve a weapon and fire. Subscribe to Cold Trail Crime to ensure you never miss an update on how this forensic roadmap is being built. But the Stroger Files are only the first half of the pincer move. The second half is the June DNA deadline. The prosecution confirmed that the final forensic analysis of the firearm is currently being processed with a hard deadline in June 2026. This is the forensic smoking gun. If Carlos Smith's DNA is found on that weapon, his status as a convicted felon means he isn't just an accessory. He is a federal criminal who provided the means for an execution. Imagine the tension in the inner circle right now. Every day that passes is a day closer to the lab results that do not care about social media lives or public denials. If you want to be the first to see the breakdown of those June results, you need to be part of the Cold Trail Crime community. We have to look at the psychological landscape of this secret society. Rumors of an 8-person plot are no longer just internet chatter. They are part of a digital dragnet. Authorities are reportedly scrubbing encrypted messages for post-event dialogue. The words spoken between Carlos and Quadajah in the seconds after Romeca fell. If audio forensics from a nearby doorbell camera confirm a celebratory tone or a mission accomplished statement, the common design theory moves from a possibility to a life sentence. This is why your support for cold trail crime is so vital. We are tracking the bank records, the geofencing data, and the witness whispers that the mainstream media is too afraid to touch. Please share this investigation across your Facebook and Twitter groups to help us reach our 1,000 subscriber goal today. Carlos Smith's criminal history proves he is a master of the legal pivot. From identity theft in 2016 to federal wire fraud in 2023, he has spent a decade outsmarting the system. But you can't fraud your way out of a murder scene when dozens of parents are watching. The paper trail trap is closing in. We are talking about those restraining orders filed by Holly months before the shooting. Orders that Romeca was reportedly never served with. The state is preparing to argue that these were legal premeditation, a way to create a fake history of fear to justify a future ambush. If the judge allows this into evidence on May 7th, the self-defense plea is officially dead on arrival. Romeca Meeks-Blackmon was a mother whose life was centered around her young son. Every time you like and share a video from Cold Trail Crime, you're telling the Cook County State's attorney that we are not distracted. We are watching the clocks, we are watching the courts, and we are watching the man who thinks he can outsmart the truth one last time. Does a man who allegedly watched a mother die while fist-bumping her killer deserve to walk free? The community says no. The science says no. And on June 2026, we believe the DNA will say no. The April 1st hearing was just the beginning of the end for the lies. Whether it is his fingerprints on a weapon or the forensic marks on a victim's neck, the trail is closing in on the architect. We are nearly at our next subscriber milestone, and your voice is what makes this channel a threat to those who think they can hide behind a pact of silence. Leave a comment below. Do you think the medical evidence or the June DNA results will be the final nail in the coffin? We are reading every response, for Romeca, for her son, and for the justice that refuses to stay cold. Click that notification bell so you don't miss our emergency evidence leak video dropping as soon as the May 7th discovery phase concludes. Justice for Romeca is the only destination, and we are almost there. Stay safe, stay vigilant, and never let her name go cold. To truly appreciate the strategic depth of the prosecution's current move, we have to look at the electronic dragnet that is quietly closing in around the South Loop. Beyond the medical files and the physical struggle, there is the digital ghost of the morning of September 8. At Cold Trail Crime, we have uncovered reports that investigators are not just looking at phone calls, but at geofencing data. A digital map that tracks every device within a specific radius of that school. If the data shows that Carlos Smith and Quadajah Johnson were circling that block, waiting for Romeca's vehicle to appear, the chance encounter defense is legally incinerated. It transforms a domestic dispute into a premeditated ambush. If you believe that a digital map of a killer's movement should be enough to lock up every person involved, please hit that like button for Cold Trail Crime right now. We are pushing for that 1,000 subscriber milestone because the more eyes we have on this evidence, the harder it is for the secret society to hide in the shadows. We also have to address the weapon of influence angle. As a multi-time federal felon, Carlos Smith is a legal ghost when it comes to firearms. He cannot buy, own, or even stand near a gun without triggering a mandatory return to a federal cell. But in the world of a calculated setup, you don't need to hold the gun if you own the person who does. The investigation is reportedly widening to look for a straw purchaser, a third party who may have bought the murder weapon specifically for this mission. If the ballistic tracing links that firearm back to a financial associate of Carlos Smith, then he is not just a bystander, he is the supplier. A man who can navigate the complexities of identity theft and wire fraud knows exactly how to put a weapon in someone's hand without leaving a fingerprint. But in the age of high-definition forensics, the ghost is finally starting to cast a shadow. Every time you subscribe to Cold Trail Crime, You are telling the untouchables that the world is no longer looking away. We are a community that understands that accountability has no expiration date. We are watching the Stroger Hospital records as the final verdict on the physical assault. If those records show that Romeca's injuries were consistent with a man of Carlos's specific height and weight, the he said, she said game is over. Science does not have reasons to be untruthful. It only has the cold, hard facts of soft tissue trauma and manual restraint. Share this investigation on your Facebook, your Twitter, and your community tabs. Tell the world that the April 1st hearing was just the beginning of the end for the lies. We are tracking the bank records, the encrypted texts, and the medical files that the defense is desperate to keep sealed. Does a man who allegedly watched a mother die while fist-bumping her killer deserve to walk free? The community says no. The family says no. And on May 7th, we believe the evidence will say no. Leave a comment below. Do you think the secret society is already starting to turn on each other behind closed doors? We are reading every response. Stay safe, stay vigilant, and never let the trail go cold. Justice for Romeca is the only destination. But the real shadow hanging over this entire investigation is not just what happened on the pavement, it is the premeditation paper trail that the prosecution is currently unrolling. At Cold Trail Crime, we have been looking into the chilling timing of the restraining orders filed by Quadajah Johnson months before the shooting. Legal analysts are now asking, was this a legal ambush? If you file for protection against someone but never actually have them served, you are not seeking safety. You are seeking a get-out-of-jail-free card for a future confrontation. You are building a fake history of fear to justify a real act of violence. On May 7th, we expect the state to argue that the school drop-off was not a chance encounter, but a kill zone chosen specifically because Romeca would be vulnerable, distracted by her child, and unarmed. If the digital pings show that Carlos and Quadajah were circling that block for 30 minutes before Romeca arrived, then the self-defense shield does not just crack, it shatters into 1,000 pieces of first-degree murder evidence. And then there is the weapon of influence. As a multi-time federal felon, Carlos Smith is legally a ghost when it comes to firearms. He cannot buy, own, or even touch a gun without triggering a mandatory return to a federal cell. But in the world of the secret society, you do not need to own the gun if you own the person holding it. The investigation is reportedly widening to look for a straw purchaser, a third party who may have bought the murder weapon specifically for this mission. Every time you subscribe to Cold Trail Crime, you are telling the untouchables that the world is no longer looking away. We are a community of nearly 1,000 truth seekers, and we are on a mission to hit 1,000 subscribers by the time the May 7th gavel drops. Your support is the only reason this case has not been buried under the weight of secret society influence. We are looking at the Stroger Hospital records as the final verdict on the physical assault. If those records show that Romeca's injuries were consistent with a man of Carlos's specific height and weight, the he said, she said game is over. Science doesn't have reasons to be untruthful. It only has the cold, hard facts of soft tissue trauma and manual restraint. Beyond the physical struggle, there is the haunting question of Carlos's high five with the shooter, a claim made by multiple witnesses that suggests a shared victory rather than a tragic accident. As of early April 2026, the prosecution has emphasized that Carlos moved toward Romeca not to help, but to restrain her, allowing Quadajah the time to retrieve her weapon and fire. Every detail points back to a coordinated effort. On May 7th, the production of discovery materials will continue, but the true D-Day remains in June 2026, when the DNA results from the firearm are expected to be revealed. If Carlos's DNA is on that trigger or that slide, no amount of social media denial will save him from the accountability he has avoided for so long. Share this investigation on your Facebook, your Twitter, and your community tabs. Tell the world that the April 1st hearing was just the beginning of the end for the lies. We are tracking the bank records, the encrypted texts, and the medical files that the defense is desperate to keep sealed. Does a man who allegedly watched a mother die while fist-bumping her killer deserve to walk free? The streets say no, the family says no, and on May 7th we believe the evidence will say no. Leave a comment below. Do you think the secret society is already starting to turn on each other behind closed doors? We are reading every response. Stay safe, stay vigilant, and never let the trail go cold. Justice for Romeca is the only destination. Here is a recap of what we have discussed so far today. The Stroger Files. The newly subpoenaed medical records are the silent witness. Prosecutors are searching for forensic proof of the manual chokehold to dismantle Carlos Smith's bystander defense. The June DNA deadline. We are on a collision course with June 2026. The DNA analysis of the firearm will determine once and for all if Carlos Smith physically handled the murder weapon. The bond denial. Despite her pregnancy, the court ruled on April 1st that Quadajah Johnson remains a danger to the community, signaling that the state's case for first-degree murder is evident and presumptive. Premeditation and the legal trap. The discovery of unserved restraining orders filed months in advance suggests a calculated paper trail designed to mask an ambush as self-defense. The accountability gap. The investigation is now shifting toward concurrent intent, proving that by restraining Romeca, Carlos Smith provided the necessary opportunity for the fatal shots to be fired. Romeca Meeks-Blackmon was a mother whose world revolved around the safety of her son. On September 8, that safety was shattered, not by a random act of violence, but by what appears to be a cold, coordinated mission. While one person sits in a cell, the man the streets call the architect continues to walk free. But the forensic net is tightening. The Stroger files are being digitized, the DNA is being sequenced, and the digital pings are mapping out every move made in that South Loop kill zone. At Cold Trail Crime, we believe that justice is not just about the person who pulls the trigger. It is about every hand that helped set the stage. We are moving toward our 1,000 subscriber goal because this community refuses to let the truth be buried under the alleged secret society influence. Share this video, hit that like button, and leave a comment below. Do you think the DNA results in June will finally lead to a second arrest? We are reading every response and we are not stopping until the trail ends in a conviction. For Romeca, for her son, and for the truth that refuses to stay cold. We will see you at the next update.